So let's bring back to the conversation Democratic woman, Congresswoman Judy Chu and Congressman Ted Lieu, both representing California. So I asked Julie there about any grumblings from Democrats or Republicans as this deal is beginning to seep out. Are you concerned about what could potentially be in this deal, Congresswoman Chu, in terms of the things that certainly more progressive members of the caucus were very, very worried about in terms of the spending agreements or cuts that could be made?
Yes, well, I just told you that I'm very, very concerned about these work requirements, which are unnecessary and only would inflict pain. But I'm also concerned about the spending cuts and whether these spending cuts, which would be exclusively on domestic spending and not on defense, would hurt our programs, would hurt our health care programs, such as Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, Veterans Affairs. I would have to see how severe these spending limits are. And then the other issue that there is, it has to do with facilitating permitting. I would have to see the details on that. I know that we want to facilitate the permitting for building infrastructure for green energy, but I don't want to have any relaxation that would actually harm the environment. So there's a delicate balance there.
So we're just getting word that, and we can report that Kevin McCarthy will give formal remarks at 9:10 p.m. And we will be bringing those comments alive to all of you as soon as the speaker sets in front of the microphone. Congressman Lieu, let's talk a little bit about before the call between McCarthy and the president this evening. What was the posture of the Democratic leadership in the ear of the president in terms of what Congresswoman Chu was just laying out in terms of those concerns and sort of helping the president brace up against McCarthy and the assistance that these draconian cuts be made, and particularly the changes to the work rules?
The message was not only to President Biden, but also to the House Republican caucus that if they want Democratic votes, then it's got to be a reasonable deal. Otherwise, you're not going to get Democratic votes. And let's take a step back as to why we're here. In addition to a Republican manufactured crisis, the other reason we're here is because Donald Trump put in these massive tax cuts for the wealthy in the top 1%, and they weren't paid for. In fact, 25% of the national debt was essentially accrued under one administration, the Trump administration, with these massive tax cuts that dramatically lowered revenue. And so if you're going to have a fair budget, you're going to have to talk about both spending and revenue.
Hey, Congressman Lieu, I want to follow up on one aspect of this that I found just watching and observing as an American, as most Americans have, this whole process play itself out. We've been given word tonight that McCarthy is coming to the microphones at 9:10. McCarthy is the one that's telling the public and feeding the narrative about the process. The White House ostensibly has been somewhat reserved, to put it politely, in sort of creating the narrative around their efforts in the negotiations. Am I misreading that? Should Americans, or certainly Democrats, be concerned about the level of and the degree to which the administration has set the narrative correct with them so that we have a fuller understanding of exactly what's in this deal?
So let me tell you why I think that is happening, because the House Republican caucus has become so radicalized that they're willing to default and not pay our bills, which would be catastrophic and crash the economy. Democrats are just not willing to go there. And it is Kevin McCarthy that has now reined back his extreme Republican caucus. I think that's why he's been out there trying to talk to the press, and now he's going to talk to his Republican colleagues, because he has to rein them back because they have gotten so crazy.
Well, here's the other side of this narrative, Congresswoman Chu, that I think it's important to establish as we get ready to hear exactly what this deal is going to be, and that is the impact that it has on families out there, what the markets look like on Tuesday when they open after the holiday. All of those points really matter. And so, do you anticipate the administration at some point, maybe the president or certainly Janet Yellen, sort of contextualizing that moment come Tuesday when folks, get over their, 3-day holiday at the beach and now focus on the fact that we dodged a bullet here. We dodged a big one. And what does this set up going forward, particularly if this deal is not a longer term deal?
Well, we certainly did need to have a deal, but I think it should have been a clean deal. In fact, as Congressmember Lieu said, Trump was responsible for 25% of the deficit, but they raised the debt ceiling 3 times in a clean bill. So they didn't require any of these kinds of impediments to their bill. But if we didn't reach a deal, the average American person would clearly see a hit because the stock market would immediately go down, and the average worker close to retirement would take a $20,000 hit to their retirement savings. The cost of a car loan would increase by over $800, and a new homeowner could see their monthly mortgage payment go up to $160 per month, thanks to these threats, costing them an extra $58,000 over the life of the loan. So there would be so much loss for the American people. We had to reach some kind of conclusion here.
So, Congressman Lieu, I can't let you get out of here without doing a little bit of politics, because that's what I do. And want to get your thoughts on the post-agreement narrative for Democrats, setting up, now that the Republican field is taking shape with its presidential candidates, including Trump and DeSantis and a few more looking to get in. The president clearly has his lane. How does this story fit into the narrative of this administration as it's asking the American people for re-election?
Well, remember that the...
it's Congressman Lieu.
Go ahead, Judy.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So Democrats passed an infrastructure law to rebuild your roads and bridges and highways. And what are Republicans focused on? Banning books, banning abortion, and just an unprecedented level of hate directed at the LGBTQ community. And the American people are reacting to that. In Wisconsin earlier this year, there was a statewide election of a Supreme Court justice. Swing state, wasn't even close. Democrats won that race. And then we recently flipped the mayorship of Jacksonville, Florida, a conservative city. One commentator said that's the equivalent of a Republican winning San Francisco. So you're seeing the American people react to the extremeness of the Republican Party.
All right, Congresswoman Judy Chu, Congressman Ted Lieu, really thank you both for your time tonight and appreciate very much your flexibility with us on this developing story.